a rough day already today. Here's Jen with more on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl, it has. And people are surveying the damage from severe storms today. We're going to take a look at some of this. You can see right here where you have just roofs and buildings almost completely destroyed. This is terrible damage. Major storm damage to this building in Nelson County, Kentucky, and nearby Lexington saw more than ½ an inch of rain and wind gusts of up to 55 miles per hour. And so you can see this is expansive with the damage. We've seen flooding, we've seen hail, and we have drone video that captured this tornado near Georgetown, Indiana. This is 1-inch hail was also reported in Floyd County, but check this out. Look at this tornado just touching down right there, and you can see the lowering of the clouds too, even the debris being picked up right there. And that's the biggest concern when we have tornadoes, is the debris, right? It could potentially hit you and it could kill you, and you don't know what is inside a tornado. That's why we tell you to get to the lowest part of your home, an interior closet or a bathroom, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. But that's a look at that tornado right there, and you can see the lowering, all the moisture, and the conditions are going to continue to be ripe for tornadoes as we do head throughout the overnight hours. So let's talk about some storm reports for you, and we're going to go right back here. Check out, this is hail over the past 24 hours. 2.5-inch size hail in Maple Grove, Missouri, and also Pumpkin Center, Montreal. You had 1 inch and almost 3/4 of an inch. So that is, you're talking about tennis ball size hail, golf ball size hail, and quarter size hail, and that can do some really big damage. That could break windows, windshields. And looking at the past 24 hours, you can see the entire line of storms. This isn't just a small storm system. This has stretched from Texas all the way up to the Great Lakes, and is also bringing snow to parts of the Great Lakes as well. So some areas that actually saw severe weather today and are currently seeing severe storms are going to get some snow as we head throughout the next 24 hours. But looking at some of the storm reports, you can see 768 severe storm reports, 14 tornado reports, and some of the biggest things that we've seen heavy rain reports of 134, flash flooding of 27, and even larger or higher amounts of hail reports. But check out the wind, 92-mile-per-hour wind gusts. This was in West Virginia. That's upwards of right around a Category 1 hurricane. And look at all the storm reports that we have seen. We had a couple tornado reports around Chicago, and down to the south, yeah, we had unfortunately some damage associated with a tornado there in Tennessee. We've had lots of other reports as well. And unfortunately, Carl, this threat is going to continue throughout the next, or the overnight hours, throughout the next 10 to 12 hours.
All right, well, let's take you live now to Jeffersonville, Indiana, and this is from our storm tracker, Charles Peak, who is live on the scene there as the rescue and recovery continues in this area. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us a little of the backstory here? When exactly did this tornado come through, and where were you when all this was happening?
This is right next to 265 of the northeast part of Louisville, and I was on 265 as this tornado hit this neighborhood, and it crossed right in front of me and turned over at least 5 18-wheelers, and I was one of the first on the scene to that, and so went into a search and rescue mode, helped an 18-wheeler driver out of his vehicle. We had to break the windshield out for him and give some first aid to one of the drivers. Had a pretty good gash on his arm, but this is the neighborhood that it hit just before crossing the interstate there, and then it ultimately crossed over to across the Ohio River and into Kentucky, which I was on a little later and stuff. Obviously, it's nighttime, a little harder to see, but you can see quite a few homes that are damaged. I was able to see a little better when it was daylight. There's probably about 25, 30 homes that have moderate damage to it, partial roofs off, and they're working hard now trying to do what recovery they can and repairs as much as they can.
My heart's going out to those folks. Charles, we have some of the video from earlier today as you were on the highway there. So did you actually see the tornado cross the highway in front of you?
No, I knew it was there, Carl. You know how you can be in those situations, and it was completely rain-wrapped from the backside where I was coming, crossing in front of me, and so I had to back off a little to not drive into it. You had the RFD winds, rear front downdraft, those strong winds making with the rain, just making it very difficult to see. So it's going very slow, and then as I got a little closer to the vehicles, then obviously you could see, and I pulled over to render aid there.
Boy, just a really tough afternoon, and you mentioned that you're at the scene of the neighborhood there. Just how extensive is the damage in that area? Is it a couple of blocks, or what can you tell us about that?
It's about, it looks like about 3 blocks of one street, and then one street to the south has some damage as well. But the overall neighborhood, it was just in this little section right next to the interstate here that, has the damage there. And so, like I said, there's probably, I'm going to estimate about 25 homes that have some damage. And then when it crossed the river over on the other side into Kentucky, lots of trees down, power lines down. One house that had quite a bit of the roof taken off, part of it blown into another house and did some damage. But so far, at least what I've come across, again, at the accident scene, we had some minor injuries there. One pretty good gash in this gentleman's arm. But other than that, no known injuries from this tornado here.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. And Charles, have you heard from any of the people that were in that neighborhood about their experience?
Yes, I'm trying to upload. I did get an interview with a lady named Dana. Her house was, she said all of a sudden inside the house, the furniture started moving. And she said that, she had never been that scared in her life. And so it was just a scary time, but she was okay. And then they walked out and all kinds of, trees down and damage around her. And that was over in Prospect, Kentucky, as it crossed the Ohio River here and did that damage.
Well, our heart's going out to those folks as they continue to clean up there. Certainly glad to hear that it appears that there are no injuries, at least in that area. And Charles, as always, we certainly do appreciate you being out there and showing us what's happened today. It's been a really tough day in the Ohio Valley, and it's not over yet. We still do have some ongoing warnings to tell you about. A couple of tornado warnings right now in Ohio. We'll zoom in and show you the latest on that. So one of these now near the Cambridge area, that's Coshocton, Guernsey, and Tuscarawas counties under warning until 9:30. So I'm going to zoom in here and we'll get a look at that couplet. So that's this area right in there, right along 77. That's been pretty steadily moving towards the east-northeast. So on that trajectory, coming into the North Salem area and also towards Odell as well. Heads up there, possible tornado coming your way. And then farther south, another warning here. That's for Muskingum County going until 9:45. Again, we'll look at the velocity data. And, unfortunately, sometimes you're just really far from the radar. You can see it a little better looking at that radar. So there's your couplet right there. Let's go back a couple of frames and get a sense of the vector. Looks like that is also basically towards the east to northeast, and that is coming towards the Rich Hill area. So if you're in Rich Hill, please get to your safe place right now. You've got a possible tornado coming your way there in Rich Hill. And then farther south, looking at a severe thunderstorm warning here into southeast Ohio, in Gallia, in Jackson, and Vinton counties. Now, I did want to show you the modeling for this area, and as we did with the south, we'll look at the tornado parameter. So you see right along the line there, we see some of that tornado potential. But watch what happens as we get deeper into the night. That area that is favorable for tornadoes gets narrower and narrower. So there's 10 o'clock, and then we'll go into 11 o'clock. And so, it looks like the tornado potential is going to be coming down in this part of the country, but it's still going to be higher in the south. And we'll have more on that coming up in just a few minutes.